Welcome to the Costa Property Podcast, the podcast that turns your dreams of owning a piece of paradise on the Costa del Sol into reality. I'm Warner Laurie, and I'm joined by my co-host and wife, Sandra Laurie.
Join us as we embark on navigating the ins and outs of real estate and relocation to this beautiful region.
We're not just about market trends, we're about sharing real-life experiences, because we know the struggle firsthand, and I've helped many people navigate this challenge also.
If you're dreaming of your perfect Costa del Sol home and want to get real, no-frills, expert advice, then you're absolutely in the right place. Join us each week as we share honest insights and information that will guide your journey. So, Florence, welcome to the Costa Property Podcast. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here with us today, because if anybody can show people how to fully embrace an expat life and talk about the experiences, it's you. But before we get into our discussion, which I'm very excited about, please tell our listeners a little bit about you. How did you become an expat coach? Tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind your book, Expat Wife, Happy Life. I would love to know more about you.
Thank you so much. So I'm a really old expat. I can say expert expat now. I've been around for 26 years, first in Africa, in Indonesia, in Brazil, in Mexico, in the Philippines, and then I came to Dubai. My husband now was actually posted to Pakistan first and then to India. So that's why we had this split family experience at the end of our expat journey. So my expat journey started at the age of 25 years when Alex at the time was my boyfriend only. He got the opportunity to be moved to Africa. And that's when I decided to follow him. I was very curious about this life and all these experiences that you can add. And that's how we moved together first time. And the reason why I became an expat coach, that's very interesting. What really energizes me always is the connection that I have with people. And from the very beginning of my expatriation, I met so many new people always, every day, people that I was communicating with, discussing, and I could see that the expat life is not always easy for everyone. And I thought it would be so interesting to become an expat coach professionally, in the sense of I could then understand how to ask the right question for the solution to be the other people's ones. So that's how I did my training, my qualification. And I started to be coached one-to-one. I decided to write my book and to become actually a coach for many people and helping much more people in once by publishing my book. And the book, was very successful, which I really am very grateful for that.
Congratulations on your book. So you've almost put your legacy out into the world.
Yes, absolutely. At the beginning, I thought it would be more for my kids, for them to know what we lived through and all the stories that we went through and the experiences and why we're here today, how we came to be the person we are today. This journey of expatriation really made the person I am today, made the couple I am today, the family we are together. And so that was absolutely what I thought I would write. I realized that I could help so many people with insights, with maybe some advices as well.
Amazing, amazing. And we will talk a little bit more about your book as we go through our discussion. But your book, you mentioned, they can find it on Amazon, and it's called Expat Wife, Happy Life. But Florence, so many people dream of moving abroad, right? But I guess what they don't realize is that there's a real emotional roller coaster that comes with it. There's incredible moments of highs, and there's also times of real lows. And that move abroad, it can be really tough. But in your experience, what are some of the biggest emotional challenges that expats face when they move?
I think the biggest emotion is always created by fear. So I think the fear is also the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how things are going to happen. And so the emotions usually always transmit a message. So it's interesting because I think for every people, it can be very different. The difference come very often from maybe the experiences you had or your culture or your religion, or, I mean, it's very much based on who you are and where you're coming from, what your expectations are, your family situations. It's very interesting to analyze actually what you feel. And you will then realize that all emotions are shared from most of the expatriates. You will always find someone who went through the same emotions as you had. And that's the reason why it's so important to discuss with other people, to be open to what you feel. And you will find some answers from others and support from others, because the expat community is actually very kind. And you will be welcome wherever you come, because people went through what you felt. The thing is, when you first arrive somewhere, it's really your duty, or you need to go to others, because I don't think people would come and look for you. So that's very much your responsibility to go to others, to be open to others, and never be afraid to talk about anything with other expat people that are actually like-minded. And that's where you're going to find support.
Amazing. You're correct. Absolutely. And I just think of my own experience moving at the beginning, when it really came to building that community around me. I was probably a little bit reserved. That was my own fear of maybe not fitting in. That was definitely at play in my own experience. And looking back, if I was to do it again, I would absolutely understand that what was holding me back was fear, and there was nothing to be concerned about. But what advice would you have for people that need to build that community around them, and they need to start integrating and build a support network?
Again, I think everybody is very different. So for somebody, it can be very easy to go to other people and talk to them. And because actually, for example, for me, I'm very energized by the conversation that I have with people, to meet people and everything. But that's my personality. I know for others, you can be very shy and it's difficult to go out and thinking, okay, I'm going to go to the next expat meeting, because it can be impressive. Some old women maybe know each other. You feel that you're going to be the only one that doesn't know anyone. Maybe that day nobody will come to you. Maybe you think, oh my God, I will never come back here. Meeting your first best friend, the first time, it's not always going to be the case. So what is really important, I think, is also thinking of what are your passions? What are your interests? And come more from this angle. So, for example, if you're someone that likes sports, try to find a group of sport. Tennis, paddle. Paddle in Spain is so popular. You go there, you say, I'm new and I would like to start, and can I join? And people will welcome you or tell you, yeah, of course, you can also have classes there. So breaking the ice with a subject that you have in common with other people. Well, you will tell me, obviously, with any expat group, you have expatriation. But then what subject will you come in? Because the way we were talking about before, it's always difficult, maybe because of fear, to talk about how you feel at this moment. Maybe you don't want to say that actually you're missing your family, thinking you're the only one, but actually everybody's missing their family. So yes, sport can be one way to come in, or maybe you're a painter, you would like to find a group of painting people, or maybe the schools. If you have kids, obviously the school is the best place to go, because international school, they always have the PTA, so the Parent-Teacher Association, and it's good to go to them. Even if you don't speak the language, it doesn't matter, because you're all international. And it's good if you decide to learn the local language as well. This is also the way you will integrate, because knowing the culture of the country you move in is also very important. But I'm sure we're going to come back to that later. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it's important If going straight to people is something that blocks you, I would really go maybe from another angle, a passion or sport or something that you're interested in.
Yeah, great advice, because sometimes expat groups or networking forums, they can feel overwhelming for you, particularly if you're a little bit more of an introvert and don't necessarily like the spotlight. What you've mentioned there in terms of look for things where you already have an interest, that's great, because you'll naturally then feel more confident with the topic to discuss. One of the biggest things that we hear from expats that we work with, especially partners or spouses who move for work, is what about me? They often find themselves supporting the move, but feeling a little bit lost in the process. How do you think, Florence, that people can redefine their sense of purpose and identity in a new country?
Well, first of all, I would say that expatriation doesn't start the day that you're abroad and you arrive in your host country. I think expatriation starts before. I think it's very important before moving somewhere that you have a real conversation with your partner. I think it's important to define, first of all, for you, what you're expecting from this decision, from this experience, from this move for your family. Maybe if the kids are in a certain age already, is it really the country that will be the best for them in terms of schools, curriculum, everything that goes around? You have to think of, am I ready for this move? What am I ready to give up? And what am I ready to say no to? Talk about it before.
Yeah, because we put so much of our self-worth connected to our identity, right? And I think what you've just mentioned there is getting to the new country when the busyness has stopped. It's probably too late to ask yourself those important questions at that point. You need to do it beforehand so that you're mentally prepared, right? Because your identity can take a little bit of a knocking. Your confidence can take a little bit of a dive if you haven't prepared that piece first. You have to do what's right for your own situation and circumstances as well. And integrating a family and everything that goes with that is a massive responsibility, and you have to be very observant. When I first moved, my kids were very, very small. And it's only in the last 2 to 3 years, as they've started to become older and into teenagers, that I've made that decision now to park that previous corporate career I have and support more in the family business, because I feel like that now, even though they're pretty settled in their expat journey, now is the time where I, as a mum, need to have my eyes watching what's going on, being observant in terms of how are they integrating, are they spending enough time with Spanish culture, everything. It's so important. But I think my point is, whatever you choose to do, I guess you have to be true to yourself, right? You just have to be true to you and know that you're comfortable with the role that you're taking, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And as expats, what's happening usually, they don't go to university next door to you anymore. So there is an age, and that comes very fast, that they're leaving home and it's an empty nest. So there are not many years that you can be there for them. I mean, waking up with them, driving them to school, picking them from school, maybe see everything, all the activities that they're having at school as well, enjoying it with them, sharing it with them. And because you're moving from one country to another, and now my kids, my 20 years old, he left for Spain. So he's away. And my daughter decided to go to boarding school because she wanted to reconnect with her Swiss origins. And I think also because she was worried that we're going to move again and she wanted to find some stabilization, and she made that decision. But for others, it can be completely different. They would be very happy to move from one place to the other and don't need this stabilization. So you see, we as adults, we have some needs. Our kids have other needs. So it's all this process which is so important, and to find that every member of your family find their way of living and be happy. Because at the end of the day, what are we looking for is really happiness.
It is very interesting with the kids because I observe even with my own children, and they're both so different. I don't know if you found this with your kids. They almost feel that desire to go back and reconnect with their roots. It's like they feel drawn back to that to kind of source their identity. It's so intriguing.
It's very interesting because, for example, for us, so Constantine was born in Singapore, but we were living in Jakarta at the time. Angelina was born in Brazil, and then we kept on moving with them. But every summer we used to go back to Europe. And yes, they're really connected because we are sharing maybe all the food, activities, everything. We want to tell them the story of our country. And yeah, they really want to connect with this story, maybe because it's the story of the roots and it's just natural. As a family, parents and kids, for us, we were four, but we are really like a team. It's very natural what we're talking about. It's always about what we've been living, what we're going to live, where we're going to spend the summer also together. Very intimate, very intimate. So yeah, I think that the connection that you created with your family in the country that you're moving to, by the experiences you're living, by the people you meet, because those people usually are also expats, or the local people, because I think this is also super important to meet local people, but this is something you have to create the opportunity. You also need to create these opportunities.
Amazing. You do create a lot of memories together because you're going on that journey together. So I guess what I'm hearing from you in terms of advice for the listeners is to make space to create that time together and almost talk about your experience and really, as a family, immerse in it and take the time to reflect how everybody's point of view is of that experience, because it is incredible what's happening. It's incredible the journey you're going on together as a family. So I'm curious about advice that you can give our listeners when it comes to the pressures that moving abroad puts on relationships. So if there's couples out there listening that are navigating this new chapter together, which can be challenging, what can they do together to remove some of the pressure that this big change might be putting on their relationship?
Well, for me, the main word is communication. I think, as I was mentioning also for communicating before the decision of being an expat or not, because you can still say no. It's okay to say no if you don't feel about the experience. And during the experience, I think it's very communication. You know, when I first arrived in Africa, I left behind my family, my job, my friends, my routine, my sport, everything. You name it. I left everything behind and I came in a country where I don't know anyone. I don't have a work. Luckily, I was speaking the language because they speak French. So it's completely new. And that's when I told Alex, I said, every day you have to come home and we have to talk about your day. I have to feel what you're feeling. I have to laugh with you about what you've been laughing. I have to understand how difficult is your job because I need to understand who you are, what you're going through. I need to share all your feelings. Otherwise, I will feel completely isolated. And for a man, it's very difficult maybe to share their feelings because men do not always share feelings. So I was really trying to work on that. And it doesn't come from one day to the other. But the first day you ask a question, the second day more, and you ask more questions. And everything is a process. Life is a process. This is a process as well. And this is something they have to agree as well, because I know that a lot of men are coming back home and think, no, that's work. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, that's fine. But then you have to talk about other things, all your feelings. We have to feel things together. I have to evolve with you. I also have to share my feelings with you and tell you that maybe the day was too long for me, that I don't know what to do. Maybe I want to study back. So let's try to find something together that really felt with me as well, and that I can embrace, and maybe I can start learning something that I like and maybe turn it out as an activity and take it over all around the world with me, which was for me coaching. So yeah, communication, exchanging, creating something, creating a bond, the bond that actually will be something that's going to grow among you together. Never feel ashamed to ask any question to your partner, because the decision was to live together. So the whole process is together.
That's powerful. That is really powerful, because I think that often when people move and they start to feel pressure in the relationship, they do the opposite. They hide their feelings from each other rather than, because they feel they're protecting the other person. But actually, from what you're saying, that's potentially causing more harm. So it's really about, what I'm hearing from you, it's creating that space, making that bond, and nothing is off the table when it comes to questions. So that is powerful, because I see the opposite actually. I see people go into like a sense of self-protection, and that makes things worse.
Well, I think there is something also very important you just mentioned, is to create the space. And to create the space, you have to find some moments for you both as a couple. I remember when the kids were young and we were always focusing on them and everything, we used to have once a week a dinner, just my husband and I, and we were going to the restaurant or doing an activity or something that it was our time, no kids' time, our time. We also were lucky enough to be able to do like 1 week vacation as well, just the two of us. So I had my parents that could come and take care of the kids. So I know that's not always the case for everyone, but the same way you create your own time as a person, create your couple time as well. It's super important. You always have to re-anchor your couple, re-anchor yourself, re-anchor your family.
Amazing. Thank you for that. So we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about the emotions, we've talked a little bit about identity. But how do you go from feeling like an outsider to feeling truly at home in a new country? Is it possible to feel truly at home as an outsider?
That's where I think the mindset really comes into consideration, and the importance of the mindset. As I was saying earlier, you really need to think about what makes me happy. What do I need to do to make me happy? So I think to really enjoy a country is really to feel part of it, belonging to this country. And by discovering the culture, by learning the language. And as an expat, I'm sure you heard all those things, but it's true. It's very true. When I first arrived in the Philippines, the Filipino people, they're always saying yes. The no is not part of the language. So I was really wondering how come they have this philosophy, and what is the yes hiding, and understanding those people. And there was a historic course that I could take to understand the history of the country, the war they had. And I did this course, and it was so interesting, not only culturally, but obviously also to understand more the people that I was sharing my day-to-day life with. So I think it's, as an expat, arriving in a new country, it's your duty, it's your homework to understand the people around you. It's your homework to start to have a few words at the beginning, but to go to them and to ask them questions. And even if sometimes you can feel the fear for them to answer, because most of the time you think, okay, they don't answer my question. Never mind. It's a smile. It's an exchange. Every step is one step closer to your integration to the country.
Your story is so interesting. You really are an amazing expat. You have so much to offer to people that are going through an expat journey. It's incredible. Thank you, Florence. So if you're thinking about moving abroad, here's the key. Don't just live there. Really experience it. Embrace the culture, build your community, and find your purpose. Florence, I will put all of your details, information, your Instagram handle, your LinkedIn information, website details into the show notes of this episode. So it will be there for everybody who is listening that wants to reach out, and also all of the details of your book. So thank you so much for being my very special guest today. It's been a really interesting discussion. It's been lovely to connect with you and speak with you. Thank you so much for listening into today's episode on the Costa Property Podcast. Another fantastic episode learning about the highs and lows of relocating to the Costa del Sol from real people who have been through the journey themselves, and of course our wonderful experts. If you have been enjoying the show so far, remember to hit subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating or review.
We absolutely love hearing your thoughts. Please send any questions that you would like us to answer on the show to warner@wlcostaproperties.net, or you can pop us a message on our socials, which are in the show notes. Remember, you can also visit the website www.wlcostaproperties.net.
See you on the next episode, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.